Hi, this is Mark. The Italian Job was originally scheduled to be episode 3 of the series, but Trev and I have decided to bring it forwards due to the sad announcement of the passing of Donald Sutherland, who starred in the remake. Recorded only a couple of days before his death, it will now serve as our dedication to the late great actor. Due to the quick turnaround, some of the parts of this episode may not be as polished as we'd liked, but hopefully you'll understand why. Our thoughts are with his family at this time. From all of us at the Deja Review, thank you. Don't forget your passport.
Not to the left, straight ahead, right? Not to the left, straight ahead.
Charlie, listen. The plan was that I stay here.
The plans change.
But why, Charlie? Why?
Because you're a liability. I went all Mick Jagger then, really, didn't I? Well, all right.
Start me up. Hello and welcome to the Deja Review. I'm Mark.
And I'm Trev.
Each episode we'll be discussing a movie that's had a remake, reboot, retake, do-over or reimagining. We're talking The Italian Job, Get Carter, Magnificent Seven, The Mummy, Robocop, I Am Legend, Journey to the Centre of the Earth, Roadhouse. So sit back, relax, and hopefully we'll take you on a journey of discovery where we dive into the utter crap that's stored in our brains. Welcome to the Deja Review. On this episode of the Deja Review, we're talking the Self-Preservation Society.
The Italian Job. Yeah, let's stop the Michael Caine impression.
Let's talk about this then. Original film, released 1969 in the UK, distributed by Paramount Pictures, estimated budget 3 million, box office 10 million estimated worldwide. The director is Peter Collinson, and also known for Long Days Dying, House on Garibaldi Street, and The Earthling. Rotten Tomatoes critic score was 81%, audience score 85%.
Good scores.
Definitely good scores there.
Little thing about the director.
Go on.
He sadly died only when he was 44 years old from cancer.
Wow.
That's very sad. Fuck cancer.
The main cast on this film, Michael Caine, Margaret Bly, Noel Coward. And what's the synopsis on this movie, Trev?
Well, according to IMDb, it's a comic caper movie about a plan to steal a gold shipment from the streets of Turin by creating a traffic jam.
Do you know who did the soundtrack?
Yes, it was it Quincy Jones?
It was Quincy Jones.
It was Quincy Jones.
Yeah, it was definitely Quincy Jones.
You know when you get something in your head and go, no, it wasn't them. Was it them? No.
No, Quincy Jones, didn't he do the Austin Powers soundtrack?
I've done maths again.
Oh no, not again. All right, that's fine.
I've done maths for...
We'll save Trevor's maths in a bit.
I've done maths for both films.
Trevor said both films, not all three films.
I'm not talking about that car crash. That is the Indian one, because that is horrendous. I started watching it yesterday.
Oh, how far did you get into it?
2 minutes. I got so bored and fed up with it. No, I'm not watching it.
You're not going to sit there and watch too many Bollywood movies, Trev.
No.
Back to the classic. We open on a 1968 Lamborghini Miura.
Very nice.
Solid orange. Also named, now my Italian here is going to be terrible,
Go for it.
Arancio Ishtar or Arancio Sol.
Ah, lovely.
Orange sun. And it's driving along the Great St Bernard Pass Bridge.
Yep.
Where does the crash take place? Where's the tunnel?
No.
La Thule.
La Thule.
La Thule, south of Courmayeur.
Ah.
Yes.
So I've done maths, you've done geography.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's worrying, really.
Do you know how much that car is still going now?
Yes, it is.
And it's worth over $1 million.
For a while, people thought they'd actually destroyed the Miura, but it soon emerged that they actually had two.
Yes. The other one was just a shell.
The original car that they got was not only a shell, it was actually a car that was crashed and in the factory itself.
Yep.
So they had just that one lying around. I wonder how many times it took them to roll that damn reef down the hill.
Yeah.
Because you can imagine it. You know, you've got one reef. That's it. We've got one take on this, lads.
And it rolled perfectly down. It was almost as though it was a tyre.
Exactly.
The way it rolled down.
And
I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think it did that first time round.
I reckon, well, you see him drop it over, but then you see it rolling afterwards. So I reckon it was like, right, keep going until we get one of these right, as I hit Mike.
Cut to Wormwood Scrubs. Michael Caine, Charlie Croker, is being released. And when he's been released, his other half, Lorna, is sitting outside in a car waiting to pick him up. What can you tell me about the car?
It was the Pakistani ambassador's car. It was actually owned by an ambassador from the Pakistani embassy.
That's nice. Right, so Charlie goes to pick up his car. What car is it? We're talking about a lot of cars in this film.
We are going to be talking about a lot of cars.
Got him. What's the car he's picking up?
It's a Bentley,
No, it's not.
isn't it? I can't
No,
remember
no,
what
no.
it is anyway.
The car that Charlie picks up is a 1962 DB4.
By the way, I'll say it now. Apart from Minis, I don't know what any of the fucking cars are, apart from the Aston Martin DB4. So
yeah, that's what he picks up.
That's the car he picks up, but that's not the car he gets picked up in.
No, I didn't say that at all. I said, what's the car he goes to pick up?
I thought you said, what car did he get picked up in?
Right, so let's start this again.
How many cars we got left, Bill?
Couple, Charlie.
Send the next one up. Let's hope he gets it right.
So he gets picked up in the Pakistani ambassador's car and heads off to the tailor's to get himself suited and booted.
Yep.
So from there, he goes to pick up his car, which is a 1962 Aston Martin DB4. By the way, tenuous link for you here. After the movie was wrapped, Charlie's car was seen a year later in a British TV comedy. That TV comedy was The Benny Hill Show.
And that DB4 is still going today. I think the last time it was sold was 2020. Because there's another link to Benny Hill as well.
Go on then.
The guy who works in the tailor's shop is actually a regular from the Benny Hill Show, yeah.
Before Benny Hill even turns up, there's some Benny Hill links in this one.
One of my favourite scenes is in that car park when he picks up the DB4.
Yep.
Is where he says that he's been away for a couple of years shooting tigers, and he asks him for the money, so he gives him the money, and he looks at it and went, oh, that must be very good. He goes, yes, I used a machine gun. So then we go to him going to a hotel.
Yeah.
Where he's introduced as Lord Croker, and he definitely makes up for time lost being in prison because Lorna's there with a lovely little surprise for him.
Oh yeah, Charlie's Angels.
Oh yes.
Hello, Charlie.
Hello, Charlie.
Charlie.
Lovely, Charlie.
Ciao, Charlie.
Nice, Charlie.
Good to see you, Charlie.
Sweet Charlie.
That's such bad ADR with that.
Absolutely,
Or they've literally just go, right, okay girls, say hi Charlie, but it just sounds like it's added afterwards.
But there was also one, if you notice, that is it my turn? Is it my turn to say something? Is it my...
It just sounds
it's my turn. Hey, Charlie.
It just sounds so unnatural.
It does, completely.
And then he walks out of there a little bit bow-legged afterwards. And then the next thing he does is goes and sees the widow of Beckerman.
Oh, yeah.
And basically carries on. Yeah, so whatever he lost for the 3 years or 2 years in prison, he's soon made up for it with his conjugal rights then.
It's the fact that he turns around and says,
And you, still in your widow's weeds.
typical Michael Caine, though.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah, for that era.
It was Michael Caine from Get Carter, Alfie. It's the same sort of, but that was a big trope then. That's why James Bond films are like they are. That was the big trope of, the leading man being able to sleep with whatever woman he wanted to.
Yeah, and that's been the same until probably mid-90s. Everything was still the same there.
They tried to stop it a bit in the 80s because of the AIDS scare. They tried to stop it then.
But then
to not encourage promiscuity. Even in some of the later James Bond films, he maybe has a dalliance with one girl, but then there's basically the main Bond girl and that's it. It's not like he's any female he sees, basically it's pants down, off we go.
Yeah, which is how it's written in the book.
Yeah. I do like the next scene after the widow where he's looking at the video, Beckerman's video of him in Italy.
Yeah.
And I love the way he's having a two-way conversation with the video. It's done really, really well.
Agreed.
It's just sort of like perfectly well timed. The gaps are left there for him to answer Beckerman as he needs to, and it's a really good scene.
Charlie Croker, I'm dead.
Hello, Roger.
So I have arranged for my widow to deliver some material to you in England.
Yes, I got it.
After he's watched the Beckerman video, he contacts Camp Freddy because he wants backing from Mr. Bridger to do the job. And there's a funny line in there where he's chatting to him and he goes, "You can't do this, you can't even spell big." And he holds the phone away from himself and goes,
B-I-G. Big.
And it's just brilliant. It's the confusion on his face when he's doing it. So, of course I can spell big.
And obviously, Mr. Noel Coward, his real-life partner was actually a psychic in this film.
And Do you know the reason why he's in the film?
Because Noel Coward wasn't very well.
Well, this was his last feature film. He kept forgetting his lines and things like that, so his real-life partner was there to actually prompt him when needed. But another little fact about Noel Coward as well is all of his scenes were shot within 10 days, and they were all filmed in Dublin because of tax avoidance in the UK.
So it looks like Wormwood Scrubs, but it's not. It's actually Ireland.
So even the funeral scene a bit later on, all of those are just filmed in studios or on location in Dublin, basically to avoid tax.
Nice piece of knowledge there for you.
Thank you.
I have to laugh at who actually is the governor of this prison.
John Le Mesurier.
Yeah. Sergeant Wilson.
This is war, Wilson, not Sainsbury's.
Yeah, there are a lot of classic British actors in here. If you could sort of like from this era, from the late 60s, if you could say British comedy actors, there are so many in here.
We've given you this magazine. Why?
I also wrote you the Illustrated London News, sir.
For why, Keats? For why?
There's a picture of the Queen in it, sir.
That's good of you.
Yeah, he's quite obsessed with the Queen, but it's the regal music every time he walks anywhere as well. And it's have a word with those lads in whatever block it was, and they weren't standing to attention during the national anthem. I love the way that Mr. Bridger, though, runs that prison. It's his prison. He's the kingpin there.
Lorna's turned up at Charlie's flat, and Camp Freddy's there smiling his head off.
Yeah, ready to give Charlie a little bit of a beating.
Yep.
For disturbing Mr. Bridger on the toilet. Or in his toilet.
And she's thrown a couple of other women out of the house.
Yes. And he basically goes, yeah, but it was all right the other day when you got all those birds for me.
Charlie, we had 3 birds in here.
You didn't seem to mind at the hotel, did you?
That was your coming out present.
So, of course, Camp Freddy's gone out. He's pasted Charlie Croker. He's now turned up at the dentist because Mr. Bridger has asked him there. He's realised the plan that Charlie Croker's given him in the toilets is actually a really good plan. And now he wants Camp Freddy to go back and speak to Charlie Croker and say he's on board.
And this is where they also discuss that they need someone smart.
Yep.
And it brings in another 2 classic British actors. So they say that the one they need is Professor Peach.
Yep.
Camp Freddy and Charlie Croker go to Professor Peach's house. And playing Professor Peach's sister is Irene Handel.
Who never bleeding looks any younger in anything
She
she's
never
done.
looks any... She's looked about 70 since... from the 60s up until whenever she passed away.
I love the way they couldn't get the Annette and Annette conversation.
I do like the bit in that, though, where Camp Freddy's stroking one of the cats and she goes, "Don't do that, dear."
That gives them ideas.
Professor Peach, he turns up and it's Mr. Benny Hill.
I think you need to insert the theme tune here.
So yeah, Benny Hill's Professor Peach has a bit of a fetish for the larger lady.
He does. And Matron.
And the matron. Are you thinking the same person that Matron would be that I
Yes,
am?
yes, exactly. From the Carry On
From
films.
the Carry On films. Miss Hattie Jakes.
But the bit which made me laugh is when they say to him and they're doing a job and he goes, "Do we get to wear tights over our heads?" He's really excited about wearing tights and he goes, "I want to wear Matron's. Matron's tights, they're big. Because she's big, I like big girls." And I'm trying to work out whether that's a wig on his head or whether that is his
actual hair. That is that.
Because it does look awful.
Yeah. I think they just made him to look as weird as possible. Was this the height of his career at this point?
No, I think I don't know if the Benny Hill show was as big as it was then, but he was quite a well-known actor because it said that Michael Caine was a fan of his.
Yeah.
But apparently on set, he was really quiet. He kept to himself.
Didn't go out and about with the crew or
even though they
cast.
stayed in the same hotel, he pretty much kept to himself. They said he was actually quite a shy character.
Yeah. So, of course, then we go into the scene where Michael Caine's introducing all of his crew to each other, basically.
We've got his second in command, Bill Bailey.
Human slaves in an insect nation. Oh!
not that Bill Bailey. And I love the way he says,
Now, you all know Bill. He's just done 3 years in Parkhurst. He's as honest as the day is long, and you can trust him.
it sort of like contradicts itself. But then we go to the three drivers.
Chris, Tony, and Dominic.
Hello, chaps.
All right. These chinless wonders will get you out of Turin faster than anyone else on 4 wheels.
Again, calling them chinless wonders. I thought that was brilliant. And then the next person he introduces is Big William, who's the coach driver.
Yep.
And then it's the way he squeezes his arm and goes, for obvious reasons. But I'm thinking, is that a little bit of a double entendre that it's like, is it just because of his arms or is it because of other reasons?
It's definitely a double entendre.
And then after that is Professor Peach.
Yep.
And he, don't put him down because he's a man of reading. He's got some funny habits, but try and be nice to him.
You and your Michael Caine impressions.
I know,
on this
they're
one.
awful, and I do apologise to everyone for them. The next person they introduce is Arthur, who I think is one of my favourite characters in this. His comedy chops are just brilliant. I don't know if you noticed, Professor Peach picks up something which I think Arthur thinks is Professor Peach's cigar. So he gets his lighter out, lights it, and basically it's a chocolate finger, and he just takes a bite out of it, and he just sort of looks at him really confused. Because he introduces the rest of the team, which is Arthur, Frank, Rosa, Coco, Yellow, and the other bit is where he goes, and you all know Camp Freddy, but it's sort of like a nod. How well do they know him?
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, it's the character of Yellow, and as I said earlier, I've probably watched this film, I'd say at least 50 times over the years. And then I said, I never realised he was in it. And you went, I didn't either. And it's Robert Powell.
Yeah, the great actor Robert Powell.
And only on the last watch, when I was making my notes, did I go, that's Robert Powell.
Yeah.
So, do you know who Coco is?
No, who's Coco?
Coco is actually Michael Caine's brother, Stanley Caine.
Interesting, I didn't know that one.
So from here, it's pretty much a training montage.
Michael Caine's Rocky moment.
Yes. Where was all the car testing done, Martin?
Well, funny you should say that. I've got some information on that.
Go for it.
All the testing was actually done at Crystal Palace Sports Centre. So half the time watching this film, I was sitting there thinking, I recognise this. I really recognise this area. And yeah, it's Crystal Palace Sports Centre. So the van explosion was...
Which Arthur looks way too excited about blowing something up.
Just slightly. It was actually at Canada Gate, which is right on the corner of that park.
Right.
It is now actually Crystal Palace Park and Gardens.
Right.
Is in that area. It's now covered in trees.
All right.
So yeah.
I don't know the area at all.
It was that moment where he says, you're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
Yep.
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
Which is a very, very quoted line from this film.
I think, I'm not sure if it was the Empire or another magazine, they did a poll and that came out as the top movie quote of all time.
Wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, that was in that scene, that's where it was actually being filmed.
There is a nice scene when they're working on the cars and Michael Caine goes down the thing and he goes, tell him to hurry up. Hurry up. Okay. And then you've got the other one, it's like, have you done this? Yes, Charlie. No, have you done it? Yes, Charlie. Okay, Charlie. And he's just pretty much ignoring him the whole time.
It was as if he was deaf.
It was, but then there's also a bit later on, because I think that was Arthur.
Yeah.
There's also a bit later on where they're clearing out the stuff and they're arguing about who wants to sit in the front and who wants to sit in the back. And Charlie's there. And
I'll get my migraines, Charlie.
yeah, exactly. And then Charlie sort of basically says to him, right, what's going to happen is you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And they're looking at Arthur and he's just basically staring into it, the air, mumbling to himself. So yeah. I think he is sort of played as slightly special.
Could it be the fact that he's deafened himself with the explosions, which would make sense
which
with
would link
the
in...
character of Mos Def later on?
Yes, it could be. I'm not sure. I see what you mean. So yeah, now we're in Italy.
Yeah, we're not in Italy yet. We're watching the video, and it was only this time round watching it where I noticed the mafia in the background of the video a lot more than just literally the blatant I'm sticking my face in front of the camera at the end of the actual connection.
The bit that gets me with that is someone's obviously standing there with the camera recording him while he's recording the message for Mr. Bridger.
Yep.
So near the end of it, why does he stop and focus on the mafia guy? So
it doesn't make sense.
No, it's sort of like, obviously it's done so it can highlight that this guy is the head of the mafia. They should have just had him walking past
and you've seen
and
him
then
in the
paused
background
it. Not actually. So the guy's recording the message for Bridger.
Yep.
And then walks out of shot. So why wasn't the camera just stopped straight away then?
Or just followed him out of shot.
Or followed him out of shot instead of staying there and then panning more or less onto the mafia guy.
Yeah, it was supposed to be done like a home video, so people were thinking that it was him walking in the scenery, you know, just going, "Oh, look at my holiday."
Exactly. So why would you focus on a complete random person?
And also, from what you were just saying there, why would the head of the mafia be doing it? Why would he not send one of his underlings?
Exactly.
Unrecognisable underling.
And surely you'd follow not the way the camera is pointing as well. You'd make sure you're staying out of the way to keep an eye on them.
I'm surprised he didn't cut eye holes in that newspaper.
Yeah. that would have been brilliant, actually.
So Michael Caine ends up at a funeral where
Mr. Bridger has arranged.
Yeah, Mr. Bridger tells him that he needs to, you know, the mafia know. They're already aware that it's been leaked. The information's out there that they're going after this gold.
And poor great Aunt Nellie.
Aunt Nellie. One of a kind.
Basically, he says, if you screw this up, great Aunt Nellie's going to turn in her grave. Meaning, I'm going to be pissed off if you screw it up.
The E-Type's in here. The blue 619DXX is still running.
Right.
It's had a few colour changes and it's now back to blue. The red 848CRY is now orange.
Ew.
When the car goes off the cliff, it's actually not a DB4. It's a car made to look like them. It's basically a 1960...
Yeah, you don't want to be wrecking a DB4.
Oh, no. So, 1960s Lancia Flamia convertible was made to look like a DB4 after the Series 5 exploded. What was supposed to happen, it gets lifted on top of the actual cliff edge and pushed off. So it goes roll down the cliff and then explodes. There was a cock-up. Yeah, so the special effects team screwed up. So the Series 5, which is the replacement, which is clipped when it's lifted up and put onto the side of the wall and pushed, it didn't go anywhere.
You can see that, I don't know if it is the DB4 or whether it's one of the other ones, when the mafia guy points his finger for him to do it, and you can see the
slight differences in the car.
Is not actually getting right there to lift it, and then the next thing it's got it up there and lifted it. You can obviously tell that's right, cut, and then the next one there, or something's gone wrong that hasn't actually got
so
in
literally
there.
They pushed it onto the side of the cliff and they were supposed to push it off. It dropped a couple of inches, so the special effects man went, right, it's going downhill, I'm going to press the button, and he nearly killed the entire cast that was actually in front of it.
Wow.
Yeah, so of course they've now had to sit there and go, right, we need to redo this shoot. We've got no spare DB4. What can we do? So that's why they ended up with the Flamia.
Yeah.
It must have taken them ages to redo that car. Of course, the Italian mafia have now disappeared off and they've warned Charlie Croker he's now got to walk home, and they're now celebrating between each other at a
banquet.
A dinner. Yeah, it's a dinner of some sorts.
There's one of their American compadres, and his wife is played by the director's wife.
I didn't know that one either. And then good old Charlie Croker cycling along on his bike and uses the bike, throws it on top of the power supply,
station, yeah,
and then knocks out all the power. Now, my question to you at this point: if the power went out, would you scream?
Yeah, they all jump up and scream.
They all jump up and scream, and very quickly.
How quickly did they have those candles
lit? Yeah, no, it's just ridiculously how quick they came out.
Yeah, normally you'd just go, oh, fuck's sake, it's a power cut.
Yeah, you wouldn't go,
I was
scream.
watching Netflix, and now it's gone off. Everyone would just have their torches on their phones ready.
Yeah. Oh, no, the internet's gone down.
Does make me laugh in the scene where he gives him the map and says to Bill Bailey.
Bill Bailey.
Not that
Bill Bailey.
Won't you come home, Bill Bailey? Won't you come home?
Get rid of this, burn this. And he's trying to talk to him, but he's got this massive map and he can't see where he is at all.
He can't see what Michael Caine's actually talking about in the first place.
I love the way when Benny Hill tries to push the Italian woman onto the bus, She turns around and thanks a completely different guy, and then we just get him being Benny Hill, basically.
Yeah, he must have done something on the actual...
On the tram, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, because it's either a scene or two later, you actually see
speeded up dubbed Italian lady,
Yeah,
which is very reminiscent of Benny Hill show.
yeah. But then they're both getting basically shoved in the back of a police wagon.
Oh no, shoved out of the police wagon.
Oh yes, when they to the police station, which then he basically pushes her in the arse again to get her in, which is what he's being arrested for anyway.
Yeah.
And how long is it taking them to unload that gold?
I was going to say the same thing. Charlie's there with Lorna saying goodbye on the airplane. The gold's dropped. Charlie goes back, does the whole... Here's the crunch. Does his whole speech and everything else like that. And then it cuts to the gold still being unloaded.
And bearing in mind, when they actually steal the gold and put it in the back of the bus, it takes them about 5 minutes to do it.
With the traffic jams. There are some weird scenes in those traffic jams.
Do you know why, though?
Well, I think I know why, but why are you thinking that there is?
They did actually block off roads in the middle of Turin. They didn't get really a lot of permission for it. Well, the Turin government didn't want them to.
No.
But they got a lot of help from the mafia to actually do it. So some of the scenes where you see actually people pissed off and stuck in traffic jams are real people. They're not actors, they're not extras. They are literally people stuck in a traffic jam.
So they went Maverick and did it?
Yes. But there's a little scene in there where you see the head of the mafia in a car and he says about the, traffic, and there's a driver.
Right.
And the driver turns around to him in a very bad Italian accent and says, "It's getting worse all the time."
What the devil is happening? It's another traffic jam. It gets worse every day.
And that's actually Michael Caine.
Michael Caine doing a cameo appearance in a Michael Caine film.
Exactly.
This film is part sponsored by Fiat.
Yeah.
So, of course, Fiat part sponsored and also said, okay, we'll give you X amount of cars as long as you, have us in your film.
It's probably one of the first instances of product placement.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of Fiat cars used. And BMC, the British Motor Corp, at the time, who owned Mini, didn't want to give them any cars. So Fiat actually said, you can have as many Fiat 500s as you want, because they wanted it to be a small car so it could move around. So they offered them a load of Fiat 500s, but they said they wanted an iconic British car, which is why they used the Minis, and they ended up actually having to pay for them themselves out of the budget, because Fiat features a lot in this film. There's the rooftop track, which is actually on top of the Fiat building. The jump scene, the rooftop jump, is actually on the Fiat factory as well.
Yep. The first logo you see of a car in the entire film is on the hubcap, and it's Fiat.
Yep. Yeah, like I say, I'm sure this is probably the first time proper product placement was used in a film.
You had some early stuff, for example, Sugar Puffs being in the Doctor Who film. You had some minor stuff, but it wasn't anything as blatant as large as this, yeah. I have an issue with this part of the film. They black out the screen from the lorry with blue dye.
Why is the driver of the van, though, and there's a glass screen there,
reacting like it's going into his face?
Why is he putting his hands up at his face like he's, it's actually spraying him?
So no, the car transporters that block the roads and are later used to break down the door, why didn't the guys take the keys out of them? They wouldn't have been able to move them at all.
This is true.
That's the one flaw in the plan that Charlie could have done.
Also, the guy with the water cannon. It was obvious the water cannon was working, and he was going, "Stop that water cannon, stop that water cannon." And it's obviously working, because every time someone's going towards it, he's knocking them over.
Yep.
So then why does he point the nozzle down and stand up as though to get off of it? Just stay where you were.
Do you know the scene with the wedding?
Yes.
They never actually asked permission to drive the Minis down there.
They knew they were going to film. They got permission to film, and they were told that they were going to use heavy machinery. They didn't realise it was going to be driving 3 Minis and some motorbikes down the stairs of the church.
Do you know how much the amount that's been stolen is?
Is $4 million.
$3 million?
No, they actually say $4 million, but in the traffic control centre,
When the cops turn up and they ask
he
them
actually
questions.
says, you need to get this sorted because there's $3 million.
Yep.
But earlier on in the film, they say it's $4 million.
Okay, my question here is, why is it dollars and not lira?
I don't know. I never actually worked that out. And the money's coming from China.
Yeah.
So
it
why
wouldn't
isn't it
be
in
dollars.
yen?
Yeah.
No, is it Chinese yen?
Yeah, it's Chinese yen. Yeah, it wouldn't be.
So
It wouldn't
why
be in
isn't
dollars.
it in lira? And why are they talking? The English people talking about it in dollars as well? Surely it should be
Pounds.
This is £4 million, £4 million, £4 million nicker.
Yeah. So mini chase through Turin.
Yes. So all the mini drivers were actually French, a French stunt team,
Yep.
led by Remy Julien. But not all of it was filmed in Italy. You know, the tunnel scene
Yep.
where they're driving through the tunnels, that was actually filmed in Coventry. It was in the sewers in Coventry, and the reason they could actually do it and film is they were working on the sewers at the time. And apparently, you see when the minis are driving down, they go up the side. Now, Remy Julien wanted to do a 360 right the way round the tunnel.
Got you.
And apparently they filmed it about 3 or 4 times, and the Mini just ended up on the roof. But apparently he did do it once, but it was never recorded. But the reason he couldn't get up there was all the algae in the tunnel.
It was just making him slip off, probably.
Yeah, he just wasn't getting enough grip to do the 360. Then we load the Minis up on the bus after they've escaped. Although the scene where they're driving along the weir, those cars must have been adapted because they were notorious for, if it rained a bit too heavy, the water would get in the distributor cap and basically cause the engine to stall or just not start off with. So the amount of water they're driving through there, they must have put those engines in some sort of waterproof casing. Whether that's what they were doing as part of the working, when they were working on the cars in the earlier scenes. But if you try to drive, if it was slightly damp outside, I used to have a Mini many years ago, and I remember sometimes you'd go out there, and if it was slightly damp, that bugger was not starting up. When they're loading the Minis onto the bus,
Yep.
did you know there's a director cameo?
Go on then.
The director, Peter Collinson, is the guy who's standing there holding the doors open and waving them in.
I never realised that there was an extra person that we hadn't actually been introduced to.
No, neither had I. But that's apparently the director, Peter Collinson.
Trevor, do you want to talk about your maths?
Oh, yes. So I've got some for the original, and I've got some for the remake.
Well, do you want to do the remake
with the original
later?
now?
Okay, fine.
So they stole $4 million of gold.
Okay.
The weight of that would have been £6,900.
Okay.
So each Mini would have had to have taken £2,300. That is actually 1.5 times more than a Mini actually weighs. So that suspension must have been fantastic.
Yep.
And at today's value, that $4 million is now worth over $130 million, which, when you realise how much they stole in the remake, it's nowhere near as valuable
as the original that was stolen in the original.
Don't you think that Big William's at fault for the coach going over the cliff?
Yeah.
Because basically he's just driving like a knob.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like, I know you're trying to get away, but they don't know you're in the coach.
Yep.
As far as they're concerned, you're in Minis. They don't even know about the Land Rover. Well, the Land Rover's been left, so they know it's not the Land Rover. They don't even really know about the Bedford van at all. So they've loaded it into the coach, which they don't know anything about. Why are you driving so fast?
Yeah.
Through a windy, mountainous road. You're just asking for trouble. And I know he's doing it quick for when they push the Minis out.
But then he could have just slowed straight down.
Exactly that. Why go so fast? As far as anybody knows, that's not you. There's been a football match on.
Yep.
So there would have been loads of coaches and different vehicles driving away in many different directions. They don't know which way they've actually gone.
There's a lot of iconic lines.
Very much so.
Obviously, a very, very misquoted line.
Which is?
where everyone says, "Hold on, I've got an idea."
Yeah, he doesn't say that.
He doesn't actually say that at all. He says,
Hang on a minute, lads.
I've got a great idea.
And that's all he does after that is just go,
Did you know in the original cut or stroke the original story for this film that never actually happened?
In the original book, it never happened. They actually get away, take the gold back to Mr. Bridger,
Yep.
and he tells them to take it back. I think it was he just wanted to prove that he could steal from under the mafia's nose.
Well, look at me, you stupid bastards. We won, didn't we?
And on to the remake. It was released in 2003 by Paramount Pictures, directed by F. Gary Gray, whose other films are Fast and Furious 8, Law-Abiding Citizen, and one of my favourites, The Negotiator.
Straight Outta Compton. Also Men in Black International.
Yeah, but that was garbage.
A lot of music videos for Ice Cube and Cypress Hill.
And many other rap artists as well.
Yep.
The estimated budget for the film was $60 million, and the box office, it brought in $176 million.
That's an interesting amount.
Rotten Tomatoes critic score was 72%, and the audience score was 80%.
That's quite high.
It's higher than I thought it would be.
Yeah, agreed.
The cast. As Charlie Croker in this one, you've got Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch Wahlberg, Charlize Theron, Edward Norton, Jason Statham, Seth Green, Yasin Bey, or as he was known in this, Mos Def, and Donald Sutherland. Give us the synopsis on this film, Martin.
Are you ready for this?
I am.
Okay. After being betrayed and left for dead in Italy, Charlie Croker and his team plan an elaborate gold heist against their former ally.
Exciting.
Spoiler alert.
Just a little bit. I quite enjoyed it. It's one of those films that, like we said in our Roadhouse episode, if you take it as a separate film,
yeah,
it's not a bad film. And I think the Rotten Tomatoes scores show that it's not a bad film. I think, again, it was, for a lot of people, the original Italian Job was such a passion piece for them that any kind of remake would have been sacrilege. And I think we're going to have this from quite a few episodes where it's going to be, the original was so good, why did they remake it? And I think a lot of people automatically go into these films with
the original in mind.
The original in mind, and also, I'm not going to like this. They've already got that negative thought in their head because they're so passionate about the original.
When I watched this originally, when it first came out, I'd not completely forgotten about the Italian Job original. I'd lost a lot of the memories about the individual parts of the film.
Yeah.
It's the usual. It's a Michael Caine film. It did this. They went to the Alps. They stole the gold in Italy, and then they got stuck on the cliff. That's the premise that you can see in the top of your head, and that's it. That's all I could really remember about the original film. But going now and you've reviewing the original film and watching this one so close, they are two separate films, but that's not a bad thing.
No, totally agree. I think the thing is that they kept the elements in this film that you'd want.
Yeah.
Okay, the only two character names that were the same were Charlie Croker and Bridger.
Yep.
They were really the only two in there. They kept the minis, the iconic red, white and blue
minis,
blue
even
minis.
though they were BMW minis now rather than...
Yeah, they were the newer minis, but then they had the little nod where Charlize Theron's own car is
one of the
a
original,
classic Mini Cooper.
Which was nice. You know, at the end of the day, I think that's a very good nod. And apparently she was the best driver of the lot on that film.
Yes, quite a few of the others, when they were teaching them to drive, they were impressed how well she did.
Yeah.
And I can't remember whether it was, I think it was Mark Wahlberg actually was vomiting when they were driving them around in the stunt cars.
It's actually also, you know, the scene where she turns up and she gets introduced to the rest of the crew,
which I think is a brilliant scene. Those little snippets
of how they are
of each one.
Yeah.
It wasn't too long. It wasn't a long drawn out process, but it was just tiny little snippets of one moment of their life, how they became who they are, how they got their nicknames or whatever. And it was just a nice It wasn't overextended.
Yep.
You've seen it where they've had introductions before, and it's like each character's had like a 5-minute backstory, and it's nice. They did it in the original. It was sort of like, this is so and so, this is so and so. You was introduced to every single character, a little bit about them, just very tiny amount. But here they used flashback sequences,
which is again something.
And I just thought it was a great little scene where introducing them. But yeah, her driving in that.
And that's why Mark Wahlberg mentioned something just before the bit where Seth Green turns up on the yellow Ducati, and he says something to her about her driving, and that's because she's just pulled into that car park too damn quick for him, and he isn't feeling right.
And also bearing in mind that's an old Mini, so the shocks probably weren't as good as they are in a nice new BMW Mini.
He was in for more of a shock than he thought.
Yeah,
that was quick.
Where are they?
We're a little early. I didn't expect us to get here quite that fast.
And the Americans don't like a small car, do they, really?
No, So, of course, you look at this film, and right at the beginning, Donald Sutherland's like, well, this is going to be a last job.
I feel so optimistic.
And you know the writing's on the wall for him at that precise moment.
Yeah, you're going to retire, but not the way you think you're going to retire. But when he does phone her when he's in Venice...
Hello? Daddy, it's early.
I just wanted to let you know I'm sending you some.
Does it smell nice?
No, but it's sparkling.
Does it have a receipt?
How hot does Charlize Theron look? Considering her hair's messy and she's just woken up, she looks stunning.
So what you're saying is she's had a full makeup artist in bed with her?
No, I don't think so. I just think she looks hot. Even with messy hair.
So anyway, we said definitely Donald Sutherland's last final call.
Yeah.
Can I ask, do you reckon they offered that role to Michael Caine?
Ooh, that's a good point.
Because it would have been a better movie if they'd have had Michael Caine playing that character as Charlie Croker X amount of years on, and then Mark Wahlberg comes in as his underling, as a different name, or even his son. I don't know, if you wanted to screw around with it, make it his son, and change the dynamic that way.
It could have been. I don't know how many, because of the action sequence, whether Michael Caine, because you've got to think he would have been 70.
Same age as Donald Sutherland?
Maybe.
I reckon Donald Sutherland and Michael Caine are about the same age. And it wasn't really much of a stunt sequence, was it?
Well, you got the underwater scene. He definitely didn't go over the bridge. That's in my notes here, because when that minibus goes into the dam, there's no way anybody is inside that van.
Oh, hell no. No one's there at all. So, okay, if we study this and say it's 2003, right? What other films was Michael Caine had just literally done? Austin Powers, Goldmember.
Yeah, but the ones that were any kind of energetic, you could tell that wasn't Michael Caine in any
No,
of those.
it's around the time he was recording Batman Begins, because Batman Begins was released in 2005, so it would have been...
Perhaps that's why. Perhaps he was tied into another film.
Yeah,
and
possibly.
Perhaps he didn't... Because when was Get Carter? Was that before The Italian Job or after?
What, the original Get Carter?
No, the remake.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say the original Get Carter was 71.
So when... But it was because he had a cameo in... Or, well, say a
2000.
Cameo. 2000. So that was before.
3 years before.
Yeah. So that didn't go down so well. Bearing in mind, Get Carter is one of his most famous films. So he went back as a cameo in that film, or as a character in that film.
So maybe they asked him and he said he didn't want to do it again.
No, after the first one, because that got pretty much panned. So perhaps he didn't want to be in it again.
Don't think that was his problem too much. I think there was a jump in Stallone's career where prior to Judge Dredd, his career was on a downslope at that point, and then Judge Dredd popped it back up a bit, and then it kind of like came, not a lot, but it was pushed up a lot more, and then it dropped down again after that.
The other thing is, as well, was he tied to a contract for another film company? So if he was already tied into a contract, a 3 or 4 movie deal with another company, he may not have been allowed to actually do that. Or it could have been a scheduling conflict as well with something.
Yeah.
But it could have been one of many. I would have thought that question would have been asked.
Yeah.
at some point is, can we get them? But because it was an American film, did they maybe want an American?
Did they want to tie it into the original?
I would say so, because all the character name of Charlie Croker, the minis, certain scenes in there which are sort of like
nods
a
to the original,
callback, to the original. I would have thought the question would have been asked: Shall we get Michael Caine? I don't think it went very far. If they did, I don't think it went very far in there. But
none of the stuff that I've read in looking at this film or anything else like that has actually mentioned the factor of Michael Caine being offered a role, or even suggested that Michael Caine was in a role.
That's what makes me think that it maybe was on the table. They maybe quickly looked into it and realised they couldn't get him, or that they basically wanted an American actor to play that part because he is supposed to be an American.
But Donald Sutherland as well he's very well known in England. He's done a lot of stage productions and everything else like that have been based out of England. You think about it, Kiefer was born in London.
Yeah.
So he's had a home in London and everything else like that. So out of a list
but his
of probably
accent is naturally American.
It's American, but it's still there's a mix of different accents in there. But it's a case of, he's probably the closest to a British actor, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I think he's Canadian, and perhaps he was tied into a multi-film contract with Paramount, like Edward Norton was. So perhaps it was
Edward Norton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was tied into a 3-film contract with Paramount, and he'd done 1 film, and he kept turning down scripts for all of them. So the only way they got him to do this was agree that this film would count for the other 2.
Yeah.
And he still wasn't impressed. That's why he just looks so pissed off in the film all the time. And apparently he didn't like the director. He didn't like most of his fellow castmates. When filming was wrapped, the director gave everybody a wrap present.
Yeah.
And he sent it back and said, give it to someone who you like and who likes you.
Wow, that's harsh.
Yeah, very much so.
So out of the 2, which one do you think was more of a heist film?
I think the original, because basically the whole film is them doing a heist.
Mm-hmm.
This one starts off with the heist.
And then turns into a revenge mission.
And a revenge mission, which is sort of a heist, but it's the rest of it is sort of more the revenge part of the film than where the original film was just heist all the way through.
Yeah, Ed Norton's character in this, I like for the fact that it was nothing near to what was created in the original film.
No, that's true.
Marky Mark's Charlie Croker character is a lot different to the original.
Yes.
The whole film is changed from that dynamic. He's a good leader. He is supposed to be the leader of this crew, but will still take direction off of someone who was his mentor, but then override them when he doesn't like the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
There was I don't know if you probably noticed it, there was a guest cameo in this film.
Whereabouts? Are you on about the gate guard?
No, I'm not the gate guard.
Oh, okay then.
Oh, you got something on the gate guard?
Yes.
Who's the gate guard?
Have you ever watched the US version of The Office?
No.
Oh, okay, then it will mean nothing to you. But it's Oscar from The Office.
All right, okay, cool. I've never watched it.
No, it's brilliant. You'll like it.
All right, okay, cool. No, I'm on about the Napster scene. The scene where Seth Green is sitting there and he's asleep on his chair, and he's always been saying that the guy who created Napster stole the idea from him and everything else like that. Sean Fanning?
Sean Fanning, yeah.
He guest starred in this film.
Oh, right.
He played himself.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it shows him stealing a 3.5-inch floppy disk with the original coding for Napster out of Seth Green's computer. So yes, that was actually, the real Napster. Did you see what was hidden in the background as well?
No.
There was a Metallica poster.
Oh, of course, because it was Lars Ulrich who he was the one who got up the campaign to get Napster pulled down.
Yep, Napster
He
bad.
was the biggest vocal opponent of it.
Exactly. I've got a question about this film.
Go.
Do you agree that this is a post-George Clooney, Ocean's 11 style heist movie.
I never thought of it that way. I suppose it is to a certain extent. The pacing.
Yep.
And yeah, I think because there's more twists and turns than you had in the original. So you look at films of sort of that era.
So the early 2000s, late 90s.
Yeah, 90s, 2000s. There was a lot of films there with twists and turns. It was to try and keep you engaged. And they seem to do it a lot in remake films and reboots to stop going, oh, we've seen this before. It was to bring a new element to it. You look at Quentin Tarantino films. There was lots of twists and certain things you don't find out until later on.
They're on the Alps. It's exactly the same Alps as the original was filmed at.
Yes, yep.
They'd been double-crossed by Edward Norton's character, and it then jumps to a few years later.
But I do have a point about the Alps. If I ever go and drive around the Alps, I'm going to drive very, very slowly. Because in the original films, when they're pushing the minis off the cliff, those wooden barriers collapse very easy.
Yep.
And in this film, this is a brick or a cement wall of a dam, and that van isn't going that fast, but manages to smash straight through that. Can you imagine if a car's going at some speed and goes through that? I'm not sure what they make their walls out of, but I think they may put a bit too much sand in their cement.
Something I was going to say to you as well about the original film, but I completely forgot. They did have no respect for the actual scenery. You know, all the walls, they were knackering the walls up left, right and centre. You know, the roads themselves were being screwed up from the tractor driving along it.
But then, as you said in the scene where they're driving down the church steps, they basically didn't lie
about what they were doing
when they asked for the permissions, but they didn't exactly tell them what they were doing. So it was
stretch the truth.
Stretch the truth is a very good way of saying it. Yeah, so perhaps they did the same there.
Yeah, but there was a lot of damage caused.
Yes, I did like the bit on the boat when they actually do the heist, the framework around sort of the tarpaulin around, pretending it's to be. Although, if that had dropped straight down into that boat, I'm sure that would have sunk that boat. It would have been like a Roadrunner thing. It would have been a square hole.
Yeah,
where
definitely
it went
would
through.
Have been, yeah, I don't think Jason Statham would have been very happy with that.
I do like the bit where Handsome Rob is trying to chat up Becky.
Yep.
To get the keys for the van.
Yep.
And the way Seth Green's character Lyle mimics him. Hello, I'm Handsome Rob. What's your name? Oh, my name's Becky.
Handsome Rob. Yeah, you're not too bright, are you?
No.
Perfect.
Yeah, I thought that was, but the way he mimics that is brilliant. And also the line before that, where they first see the girl, and he went, oh, Becky, I wonder what the other one's called, because her name tag's on her.
Did you see that there was outtakes of that?
No.
There was a full video floating around. It might be online somewhere, which is Seth Green's Jason Statham mimicking.
Oh, right.
There's a longer video.
Oh, it was improv, was it? Yeah.
You've got the same traffic light hack.
Yes.
From the original.
Yeah. Well, there's a few things they do which are callbacks. There's the one where they're going through the tunnels.
Yep.
When they're escaping. There's a few bits which are the same, you know, causing the traffic jam to make them go where they want them to go.
Yep.
And like I say, the tunnel sequence, this time, instead of going across the weir, they're going through the canals.
Yep.
Or the overflow
canals yeah.
in LA, which at one point I really did want a motorbike with Arnold Schwarzenegger jumping off of a bridge to chase them as well. Or Robert Patrick as a copper chasing them, but that's another film. Let's.
So, how much was the gold worth in this film?
Right, so it's 35 million in gold.
Yep.
So the weight of that in 2003 would have been 7,520 pounds of gold, which would have been approximately 274 gold bars.
That's a lot of gold bars.
Yeah. So each
Split between 3 minis.
Split between 3 minis, yeah. But what gets me with the weight of the gold, when they actually steal it, when they're in Venice,
Yep.
they load each block onto, what's it, like a little skidoo,
skidoo,
an underwater skidoo. That's £3,760 each, which is 3.5 tons. I'm not sure those skidoos would have actually moved anywhere.
No, they wouldn't have.
Because they had 2 of them. And okay, there's 2 skidoos, 2 people on each skidoo. There's no way they're lifting 3.5.
It would have been definitely dragging across the floor. Yeah.
And if anything, those propellers would have churned up all the silt, and the police would have been, what's going on down there?
So, by the time they recover the gold from Ed Norton, how much is left?
27 million, I think it is.
27 million's left. Right.
So that's still a fair old whack of weight.
Question for you.
Yep.
Which Marvel superhero had a cameo role in this film?
Ooh. Let me think. I don't know.
Spider-Man. Spider-Man is in this movie. Outside Grumman's Chinese Theatre, when it all kicks off, Spider-Man is actually there. He could have saved all of this gold.
I think that's just one of the guys who stands there and gets people to take photos. But I'm trying to. What I was trying to think of was actors, and I'm thinking, right, who was around 20 years ago as an actor that may have just had a bit part? And
Ed Norton.
Yeah.
Hulk.
Yeah, we're not going there.
We're not going to go there.
No, we're not going there.
But yeah. Any of the others done?
That's
she has. Charlize Theron.
Charlize Theron was in.
Seth Green, has he done?
Yes, he is. Seth Green's Howard the Duck.
Yes, he is. Yep, perfect. Remembering. Well done.
Thank you. Which apparently they're doing supposed to be making a movie of.
And that's going to be another remake for us.
Yes, there'll be another episode to do. And also what I found out today, they're supposedly remaking Neverending Story.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. There's going to be lots of kids these days that are going to be distraught with a horse that's actually drowned in quicksand.
Yeah. When you was younger, did you think that quicksand was going to be more of a problem than it is now?
Yeah, no, I did. I did actually think quicksand was going to be more of a problem than it is now. You know, I spent my entire life worried that I was going to be sinking in quicksand.
Yep.
No matter where I went. So, okay, I have a question on physics.
Oh, we've done maths.
We've done
geography.
Now we're doing physics.
Oh, let's go for it. Go for it.
Right, okay, so a mini.
Yes.
Jumps out of the overflow pipe.
Yes.
Laden in the back with a third of the gold of 27 million.
So say roughly 2 tons.
Yep. So
how does it
nosedive? Yeah, that's surely it would be going flying out of that tunnel, and as soon as it loses ground, it would be straight down onto
it's
it.
The blue one, isn't it? The nose goes straight down.
It's just
there's no way that mini was carrying on.
Oh no, exactly.
So it was definitely a quick cut going on from there.
Best lines in the movie. Do you have any?
Yeah. Don't stare at Skinny Pete.
Don't stare. Huh? Don't stare. He doesn't like when people stare at him.
Stare at what?
I thought that was brilliant. Where you've Mos Def just looking into the sky, just trying to, and then when he's trying to explain the shopping list of explosives he needs, and he just can't do it. He just can't concentrate at all.
I'm wondering if that was a cock up in there as well. He was trying not to laugh.
I'm not sure. It worked really. If it was, it worked really, really well.
Yeah, and that's why they left it in. Any other lines that you think were good?
No, go.
Okay, mine is actually Skinny Pete's line.
Oh, what's that?
Yeah. If there's one thing I know, it's never to mess with Mother Nature, mother-in-laws, or mother-freaking Ukrainians.
If there's one thing that I know, it's never to mess with Mother Nature, mother-in-laws, or mother-freaking Ukrainians.
I thought that was a brilliant line.
Yeah, for a small bit part character, he's got a big presence in. Well,
he's sumo champion.
He's massive anyway.
Yeah.
When I mean big presence, I mean not physically. I mean as in part of the film.
Yeah. No, he was actually a sumo wrestler at the time as well,
right.
Or just recently retired sumo wrestler.
I love the way he's at the driving range, and he's only using a putting mat, and the way he's just blasting it over the back, and the girls just
celebrating it.
Yeah.
So, anything else you got for this film?
Well, it's just the name of the film, The Italian Job, but Italy isn't.
It is. No.
It's literally the small scene in Venice at the beginning, and a tiny little flashback, or not even a flashback. It's at the end. Charlie and Stella on a gondola in Venice, which was blatantly filmed at exactly the same time. It may not have even been filmed in Venice. It
was probably Vegas.
Probably done in Vegas, yeah. They probably filmed it was stock footage of Venice from when they did the original part.
Yeah.
And then it was probably, right, just getting this gondola here.
Mos Def's character is partially deaf.
He's left ear. He's deaf in his left ear.
So I if that's not a nod to the original Explosives expert, I think that's a very, very good character choice because it gives him a bit more of a background and a story.
At the end of the film, it's in the mid-credit scene where Seth Green's finally got his amp.
Yep.
And he's blowing the clothes. That's
Kelly Brook,
who at that time was, I'm not sure they weren't engaged, but they were definitely dating Jason Statham.
Yep. I found that a bit jarring because, yes, he's bought an amp that can blow a woman's clothes off and also make her deaf.
This is true, yeah. It's powerful enough to blow your clothes off. Yeah, you would be deaf and might even explode your eyeballs a little bit.
Yeah. The early part of this episode, we tried to go beat for beat on what happened in the original film, purely because it's an older film and I think it deserved to have more information about what was going on from scene to scene. Whereas this one is just a generalised action film with the heist element that's now basically saying it's the Italian job. And I don't think it necessarily needs a beat for beat description of what actually happens in each scene. Because, it's one of those ones that you can just sit and watch for yourself. We'll just give you the nods and the tips of what you should be looking at in the film that's a reference to the original, but therefore now you've got your own mind to make up on it.
Also, as we're recording this is our third episode.
Yeah.
Whether it comes out in that order at the minute, we don't know, but this is our third episode. We're still learning how to do this. As I said in our Roadhouse episode, if you think there's things we need to change, way to do something, let us know, because we're still learning.
Yeah.
And we're finding as we're going along, the pair of us both sit here at the start of each one and go, right, how are we going to start this? And we do it every time. And it'll come natural to us in the end. But we still haven't sorted out a proper format for any of this.
Yeah, whether it's just a discussion about the film or whether it's actually going, play by play about the film itself and what each individual scene and everything else that means. Again, it may change. But what we don't want to do is sit there and go, and here's an episode that's half an hour long.
Yeah.
We've got nothing to say about either of the films because we'd rather not just make the podcast on that episode on that film.
Yeah.
If we've got nothing really to say about either of the two films, we just won't record it.
Yeah, because also there's, we've already picked one film and then changed our minds because we basically it's going to be so hard to make a decent podcast of this.
Yeah, and that film was The Vanishing Point.
Which I love the original.
Yeah.
I found the remake really, really hard.
I enjoyed the remake because it's a better story in the fact that he's got a purpose why he's going from A to B rather than just a plain and simple you're dropping a car off.
Yeah, but he's dropping a car off and hasn't got a license. That's why he doesn't stop for the police.
Yeah. But at least with the Viggo Mortensen remake, he's driving
There's a reason why he's going there.
His wife's in labour, so...
But this is why we chose the Italian job. Instead of that, we've still got a car movie with car action in there. Starting off, we're trying to do as many different genres or many different types of films. So we're not... So me and Mark are massive sci-fi fans.
Yeah.
And we could probably just do a whole podcast on sci-fi films. So you will get a few sci-fi films because that is our passion. But then we wanted to add in films like Roadhouse, like
comedy films.
Yeah, comedy films. So we've got the next few lined up after these. We've got one sci-fi film coming. We've got a fantasy film. We've got a comedy film. And we've even got a French film which has had an American remake. But it's more an action film.
Yeah.
So, there's a nice mix there coming up. And if there's something you want to hear,
get in touch with us.
Get in touch with us.
If there's something that you sit there and think, okay, you two are idiots, that you really should get together and watch this film and talk about it.
I think they've already worked out that we are idiots, yes.
So we'll see what happens. But no, we appreciate our listeners, full stop. Let's do some summing up on this one. Best lead Charlie Croker, Michael Caine or Mark Wahlberg?
Michael Caine, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. Michael Caine was definitely the better.
Should have stuck with his funky bunch.
Lead actress, Margaret Bly or Charlize Theron?
I'd say Charlize Theron. Mainly she has more to do
Rather
in the
than
film.
just being an assistant, shall we say.
Yeah. She's a fun character in the first one, but she is only a bit character in there, isn't she?
Yeah, agreed. Lead Bridger, Noel Carroll or Donald Sutherland?
Oh, that's a tough one. Both good actors, but they're both playing very different roles, so it's hard to actually pick one or the other in them.
Which was more believable?
Well, if you're going to say believable, it's got to be Donald Sutherland's, because the Noel Coward character is just a parody character.
Yeah.
But then the whole film is more of a comic caper than
a serious caper.
Yeah.
Best plot, original or remake?
Ooh. I'm going to say it third time. Ooh. Because the stories are so very different. But if I was pushed to pick one, I would probably go the original, but that's probably more through nostalgia than anything against the remake.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'd be hard pressed to push between the two of them because they were two completely different films.
Yeah.
One is probably a caper and the other one is called the wrong name, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to tie into the name.
Yeah.
Because, well, we've seen a glut of them in the 90s and the 2000s of remake films just because they've got the name.
Yeah.
As we've already said in this podcast, that this could be a film in its own right.
Oh yeah, definitely could be. All you needed to do was change a couple of little elements, and you've got a completely different film that doesn't have to be related to the original Italian Job.
Yeah.
So,
back to the plot point thing. I would say the original, but again, because of the nostalgia thing, it's a film I've watched since I was a kid.
Plot, yes. Plot, I agree with. There's a better plot in the first one. I'll ask the question again slightly different. Which is the better film?
I'd still say the original.
I'd go with a new one.
I still think the first one's the better film.
See, I struggle with this. There was a lot of...
But again, is it the nostalgia part?
I think it is the nostalgia part.
It's a film I remember watching on TV when I was a kid. There's so many... Obviously, when I was younger, there was a lot of actors on there who were still on the TV at those times.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much now, but they were part of your life as you was growing up. So I think, the better film for me is still the original.
That's fair enough. Yeah, not a problem there. At the end of the day, it may not be your decision the same as us. You know, we've come to shall we say, a different conclusion between the two films, which is, bound to happen.
And you let us know which one you prefer as well.
Thank you very much for listening again.
Croker, this is my toilet.
Please, just read it, Mr. Bridger.
Get out.
Keep an eye on our socials, because we're going to give you clues to what our next films are going to be. And we're going to give you a shout out for the first person who gets the answer right.
Thanks for listening. Please remember to follow, like and subscribe. Where can they get hold of us, Trev?
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram. Just go to @TheDejaReview. Or get in touch with us direct at our email address, thedejareview@gmail.com.
Thanks for tuning in again. This has been The Deja Review. I'm Mark.
I'm Trev.
Enjoy yourselves.
How do you feel?
Fine.
Fine? You know what fine stands for, don't you?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Freaked out.
Insecure.
Neurotic.
And emotional.
Good. See those columns behind you?
What about them?
That's where they used to string up thieves who felt fine.
After you?
Dedicated to Donald Sutherland, 1935 to 2024.